Hi, everyone. How are you today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. And as always, for being a part of our soul family. And I appreciate this journey that we've been on for the last week. Um, it's really opened up a lot for me. I hope that it's opened up a lot for you and really brought in a new awareness around how you view money and how you look at money. For those of you who are joining, who didn't join the first week, but you're joining the second week, that's great. Thank you. We're happy to have you. The first week, we dove into our relationships with money as related to how we look at our relationships with people, right? We looked at our relationships with our loved ones, our lovers, our friends, our teachers. And then we looked at money and how money shows up in those areas as well. This week, we're going to take it one step further and we're going to look at your relationship to how money comes into your life, right? Or like I like to call it, money as a verb, right? We often think that the only way for us to receive and to have money is through work. We're going to look at that and we're going to see what kind of beliefs and points of views we have based upon those findings. But first, I just want to invite you all to just kind of just become really present here. I want to share something with you astrologically. If you are new here and you haven't been to any of my meditations or my lectures, I reference astrology a lot. I am an astrologer, not from the point of view of like someone who sits with their maps of the stars and tries to figure everything out, but I know placements and planets and aspects very, very well, and I interpret them spiritually. Okay, so something very unique happened this weekend, actually, and it will take effect for the next 4 days, and it will have to do with your money. Now, the planet Uranus, which is all about change, which is all about upheaval, which is all about disturbances, inviting you and begging you to look at those things that are affected under that sign in a different way. So let me break this down for you. Uranus has a very, very large orbit. It first entered into the sign of Taurus in about 2018 was its pre-shadow, then it went into retrograde and then came back in about March of 2019. You most likely started to see a shift in your finances beginning in 2019. Finances, anything that had to do with the energy that Taurus brings. So Taurus brings the energy of comfort, stability. It also brings the energy of comfort, stability, and anything that has to do with things that are associated with that, like money, like earning, like work. Okay. Also has to do with things that have to do with feeling good. It's ruled by the planet Venus. So there's a lot of things that have to do with comfort and luxury and also our relationships. So since 2019, those things probably have undergone a great shift in your life. What does money mean to you? How does money show up in your life? What's your relationship to money? All of those kind of things have probably really come to the forefront in the last 6 or 7 years. Okay. Now, in June, Uranus transitioned out of Taurus and into Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. It's all about communication, all of those good things. That's a whole nother subject. It was in Gemini for a few months. And this weekend, it's retrograding back into Taurus until late February, early March. What does that mean? It means that this is an incredible, incredible time to get very, very clear on all those things that have to do with finances and money in your life that you have been struggling with. It means to look at how you look at your cash flow in and out, your budgets, right? It also begs us to look at our taxes. It begs us to look at letting go of the things that we're wasting money on. So, a lot of those things are going to start to play into our field in the next few months. Now, no coincidence that this whole thing, this whole workshop came to me a couple of weeks ago. I didn't even put together that it was the same time as this Uranus movement. And how divine and how poetic, because our relationship to money and what we thought provided structure, security, and stability is changing. It has been changing. And this is the final push to how you're going to make it work for you in your life moving forward. Okay. This is a big, big, big reset, and we don't want to lose it. Okay. So what I wanted to speak about today is money as work. Most of us, actually, let me take you on a journey. Let's close our eyes and just kind of find yourself in your heart. And I want you to see if you can remember some of the early conversations that you had with your parents about money. Do you remember? And do you remember how they told you that you get money or how you make money? I remember, actually, my parents said, I remember my dad said, I was really young. I remember my dad said, you get it from your mom and dad. And then I was like, yeah, but do you get it from your mom and dad? And they were like, no, we work. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, well, every day you have a job, you go to a job, and you get paid a certain amount of money to do your job. And every week you get what's called a paycheck. When you get a paycheck, then you use your paycheck to budget your finances based upon the money that you have, and you break it down into distinct parts, right? He said you'll have a certain percentage of money for your bills. You'll have a certain percentage of money for fun. You'll have a certain percentage of money for your taxes. And he's like, that's just the way it is. And I was like, I remember specifically asking, well, do I get to decide how much money it is that they pay me? And he said, not usually. Right? My parents were both teachers. He said, no, not usually. He said, if you, move up in your career, you can kind of do something that we call negotiations based upon your value and your worth. He said, but for mom and I, both of them are teachers. He said they get a slight raise every year, a slight increase, raise, a cost of living raise every single year, and that's what they have to work with. And I remember feeling so incredibly perplexed by this idea and this attitude that was the only amount of money that I was ever going to be able to receive was based upon what somebody else told me, right? And so I took with that into my life and into my world and tried to make sense of it. And I was a professional actor for a long time. And so there was never any consistency in how I received or had money. And it was very hard for me because for me, acting was fun. The entertainment business was fun. I didn't consider it work. So therefore, if I look back on it now, what was very interesting to me is that it was very hard for me to make money as an actor. And now I see why, because I was unwilling to create the connection that was actually also my work, right? I thought I could only receive money from something that was a job, not something that I loved. And so I went through many, many years completely unaware of this connection, but I would do my acting jobs and make a certain amount of money, of course, but I always kind of felt that was like play money. But then I'd also work in restaurants, nightclubs, and all those cool things and make a lot of cash. because I thought that the cash, the money that I was making in the restaurants that's what I was living off of. And so there too, we also can see the correlation between a belief that popped up for you, for me, about money, and money is work. Okay. What if, well, I'll tell you what ended up happening for me is I started to see that, you know, there were so many other places and ways to receive money that actually had nothing to do with work, right? They had to do with fun and excitement and creativity. And I realized that the more that I valued myself and what I brought to the table, it didn't matter what I was doing, right? If I brought value, my own value and my own worth to the table, and I knew that I enjoyed and I saw value in what I was choosing, then I knew that I saw that I made more money that way. All of a sudden, my belief system started to change from that. Then I started to learn about how I can make money for me. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. Money is just multiplying and multiplying and multiplying once I set it free from the constraints that we love them so much. My parents guided me towards. They guided me towards what they knew and that what they learned from their own parents, right? There's no judgment in that. But what I do get to see and what I want each and every one of you to see is that your effort and your worth are not tied to money. Okay? Because if you think about hard work becomes what we could call a moral standard, right? Hard work then decides what you're good at, right? Hard work becomes your goodness. It becomes your discipline. It becomes your own worthiness. And the thing that we want to get is that work is not a requirement for receiving. It's an expression thereof of creation. So everywhere that you have decided that the only way for you to make money, to have money, to receive money is by checks and balances and by the old system of hard work versus effort equals reward. Can we please destroy and uncreate that? Those of you who are joining for the first time, what I'm doing is I'm tapping into the energies here that are our belief systems, right? When I say I want to destroy and uncreate it, it means that we're going to take the beliefs that pop up related to that which we are working with, and then I'm asking the creator to come in and almost like blow them up. And then what happens is that when they blow up, they create space for us in our consciousness, in our life, in our world. And as they create that beautiful space for us, then we can actually replace it with different energies. So, would you like to know what it feels like to become aware of how you have acknowledged and seen your value as connected to work, effort, and reward? And can we also download you that it's safe for you to choose something greater beyond what you had been choosing before? So now close your eyes and ask yourself if it is safe for you to now release yourself from these old programs that you're carrying or have carried on with your ancestors. And everywhere that you've decided that you have to be loyal to them by holding on to their beliefs, let's destroy and uncreate that. I remember my mom always used to tell me this story of someone, a great grandfather of ours, who made a lot of money in Detroit in the automobile boom around the turn of the century. And a lot of money. My grandfather's grandfather, I think it was, he made a lot of money. But then he lost it all, right? He lost it all. and ended up becoming like a carpenter or something. And he became very religious. He became a carpenter. He became very religious, and he devoted his life to God. So those beliefs, believe it or not, have been passed down to me through epigenetics. So for example, one of the beliefs that I took on from that lineage is that in order for me to be spiritual, I must renounce money. I must have all my money taken away from me. I had to work very, very hard on that one. I couldn't believe I even had it, but I found it intuitively. What I realized is it was completely the opposite, right? That the Creator wanted me to be as abundant as possible. The Creator wanted to give me everything that I required to do my spiritual work, right? The Creator wanted to give me all that I required to be happy, to be healthy, to be fulfilled, to live my life without judgment, which is not what my great-great-grandfather was able to do. He found religion and became very, very religious, almost extremist religious, and actually created even more havoc in his life, disconnected himself, disassociated himself from his true value, which was what he loved and his family. And so for me, what I get to learn in that process of correcting my epigenetics is to realize that nothing is more valuable than my own self-worth. Nothing is more valuable than my friends and my family, right? To make those things a priority. When you make them a priority, here's what happens. The Creator acknowledges, the universe acknowledges, your belief systems acknowledge that that is a source that deserves abundance. Where happiness goes, money flows. Okay? So for today, I want you to focus on all the things that make you happy and all the things that bring you joy outside of work. Wonderful if your work also brings you that joy. But I really want you to focus on the things that you don't think about money bringing into your life. I want you to think about, for example, I have really, really enjoyed cooking. And because I've enjoyed cooking so much, I just, it's like such a thing for me. Like I set the table, I light candles, I turn on music, and dinner time has become really quite a sacred time in our house. And when I was preparing for this class, I thought, you know, it requires money to have this much fun. It requires money to make these delicious meals. And then all of a sudden I had this idea. You know, I have been dealing with the loss of my mother in the last 6 months, which has really opened up a new space of grieving for me, and a space of truth, a space of compassion, a space of mercy and kindness for those who are going through the same or have been through the same. Probably a space that I never knew before. And I had an idea while I was cooking. I wanted to do some kind of like spiritual grief counseling for people in a group setting, right? Like a group therapy, but I wanted to make it new and unique and fun. And here in the Netherlands, in Dutch, there's a word called gezellig, and it means cozy. And, you know, we have 6 months out of the year, the weather is really kind of crap. So a lot of people stay in, and gezellig is actually a verb. It's a verb that the Dutch use to describe, I'm not going to do anything but sit here and read my book, and I'm going to put on a fire, and I'm going to cozy up. That's all it means. So when I was cooking the other day, I had an idea. I thought, God, you know what would be really cool? What if I offered an experience for international travelers who are on a self-healing journey, and I could call it gezellig, and invite people to my house, and we could cook a Dutch meal together, talk about Dutch culture, sit down at my table, and talk about what's going on in our life. Very similar to a grief counseling, grief therapy situation. And I haven't implemented it yet, but I started to think about it. I mentioned it to a colleague of mine, somebody who works for me actually, and they were like, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is huge. This is different from anything you've ever done before. I've also wanted to venture out into to working with people again in real life and not just online. This answers all of that. So just by me what I'm saying to you is that just the simple act of me focusing on what I love created the space for the divine inspiration to create something that I love that will also pour through and has the potential to pour through and bring through abundance in my life. Okay? So, on that note, I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. And have fun. And I'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everyone.